Uh-huh. Yeah, sorry, dude. I'm looking at the manual for this new unit I got for my guitar, and I don't even know how to turn it on. It's probably going to take me about 6 months to figure out how to use it. Okay, call you back next year. Focus on my face to the dismay of all the ones watching this disgrace. Friends, Brian here for Yes You Can Play Guitar, and I wanted to have an open, honest dialogue discussion with all the guitar players out there. Can we do that? Can we just have an honest chat amongst the several million of us out there? So for those of you that are new to my channel, I've been a professional musician for decades. I've been a guitar teacher for decades, played around regionally, all the local dives, many hundreds of gigs, learned a lot, played a lot, taught a lot. And, you know, I started my channel about 1.5 years ago just to say, hey, maybe if I can help some people learn, help some people, musicians too, not make my mistakes, I'm doing a good thing. As my channel got going, it seems that a lot of people like my reaction videos to certain things, which I'm going to keep doing. But I also will be upping the guitar content. I had a very long chat with a student of mine yesterday who came here for lessons in person. He's been playing guitar for a long time, been around music for a long time. And we had a really interesting chat. And the chat was about guitar gear. Now, if you've watched any of my videos over the past 1.5 years, you guys will probably know that I'm not a big gear guy. I know a lot about gear, I know a lot about effects, but you know, sitting in your room and toying with effects and playing with amps is one thing, but you get out playing a lot of live gigs, you start to learn, oh, this amp doesn't sound the same as in my room as in this hall that holds 1,500 people, or you know, the floors are wooden, or it's concrete, or you learn how sound works. But we had a big conversation about it, and we talked about different things. You know, I did a few videos on what's in my pedal board, but you know, there's so many channels out there that have really big followings, and they pretty much just do gear reviews and talk about gear. Now, first and foremost, YouTube's tough. We're at a day and age now where the competition with YouTube and the production levels, the bar is set so high, it's really hard to get a following on YouTube now and get established. So I'm happy for any channel that can get a following and do well and be successful. I really am. But I've seen some of these channels where all they do is gear reviews and they talk about guitars and gear and stuff, and that's great. I think it's educational, I think it's great. But I saw one the other day and they do a lot of like YouTube like live streams, and some of them are 2 and 3 hours long, and I'm sitting there going, and they have hundreds of thousands of views, and I'm sitting there going, where do people find the time to sit down for 2 or 3 hours just to listen and talk about gear? I learned over my many years of playing and gigging live in the practical sense. I used to have the big complicated rack effects and I'd have them looped together with a MIDI controller switching between patches and everything. And it can be really cool, but you start to learn also what really matters on stage to an audience and what's practical. When you're on stage playing to a drunken audience who are trying to get up on stage and they're spilling beer everywhere and they're tripping and falling and they're landing on your expensive floor unit that costs you $1,500 and they break the connector. If you have a simple pedal board and you can just swap out the pedal or the adapter if it breaks, and you can just, okay, you're out $80 for a used pedal, okay. I've learned to live to the adage of, you know, a really good amp, a few pedals, a really good guitar, and your fingers. That's what really matters. So I just get amazed when I see people that, you know, in some of the units out now that you almost need a PhD to operate or learn how to program. Uh-huh. Yeah, sorry, dude. I'm looking at the manual for this new unit I got for my guitar, and I don't even know how to turn it on. It's probably going to take me about 6 months to figure out how to use it. Okay, call you back next year. You spend so much time tinkering on that or watching these like hour-long videos on how to use certain gear and stuff. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's great if you enjoy it, but I'm also sitting there sometimes going, hey, you know what? That's time you could be practicing. working on your technique or studying or learning new chord progressions or learning new chords or learning new sweep arpeggios or lick. I guess what I'm saying to you guys is that how important is the gear reviews? How important is the talking about gear? Having an understanding of gear is important. I can go into a music store and I can quickly look at a guitar with my experience and go, yeah, I don't think that's for me, or I don't like that. I know what pickups I want. I can plug the guitar, depending on the tone I'm going for, I can plug the guitar into an amp and very quickly find the tone and see if I like the amp or not. And then I'm like, okay, I need a few pedals for effects. Like my pedal setup for gigging, although I haven't gigged in a long time, I keep a practical setup here because, you never know what the future may hold. Never say never. But it can be summed up really quickly like this. Guys, here's a quick look at some of the pedals I use. Of course, I'm not gigging anymore the way I used to, but I have some pedals just in case. As a working musician, having played in the metal scene, having played in the country scene and the classic rock scene, it really comes down to just a few things that you really need. So for the first thing is you need a tuner in your pedal board because you want to be in tune, but you also want a tuner where you can see the display, see exactly where you're at. And when you hit it, you want it to have a bypass. So the sound isn't going past the tuner, it's not coming out of your amp, nor the PA system and droning and driving the audience and other bandmates crazy. So this way you can silently hit it, see what's going on, quickly tune, and away you go. Also, I'll be doing a video of what order to put these in because the order and how you set them up is extremely important. Wah pedal, very important. I love wah pedals. Wah pedal and the pentatonic licks and the blues licks go together like peanut butter and jam, my friends. I've always been a Dunlop guy. I know there's a lot of other products out there, but those are the ones I've always stuck to and used. Super Chorus, I've made a detailed video about that. I use it on my clean sound. If you listen to some hard rock bands, metal bands in the 80s, a good example would be the band Wasp. They had that Jackson guitar, Marshall amp, and chorus pedal sound on the distortion. Zakk Wylde, obviously from Ozzy and Black Label Society and now Pantera, uses chorus a lot on his distortion. For me, I'm not a big fan of it. I find it eats up the overdrive, and I prefer just using it on clean tones, if I'm strumming or whatever, clean picking stuff. But that's a chorus. I think it's a must-to-have. If you're using any type of overdrive, you need to have a noise gate. I like the Decimator ISP, the ISP Decimator noise gate. Equalizer. Why I use this, okay? If you're doing a gig and you're playing in a band and you want your solo to come out a little bit, especially if you don't have a sound guy there to put your lead up on the mixing board, I'll have an EQ, just adding a little bit of mid-range. It'll help cut through a little bit, but without piercing people's ears. I'll hit that, and it'll boost my lead a little bit. Again, how you have these lined up in the pedal board is very important. I'll get into that in another video. The delay pedal I had bought was a Fender mirror image delay. Now, I haven't used this very much. There's a lot to it. One of the problems with delay pedals in being a pedal is that there's not a lot of versatility. Once you kind of have it set and you're playing live and you hit it, it's at that setting. But sometimes for different songs, you need different delays, different times, different types of delays. So that's why I got this Eventide H9 harmonizer. Now again, guys, I'm not gigging, so I don't really use this stuff a lot, but I like to have it here in case I ever do gig or something comes up. But here, I can set different patches for delays, harmonizations, whatever. But again, I don't like getting too complicated. I just like having a little bit more versatility for my delay. So really, guys, also reverb. I know there's reverb in here, but sometimes I'll get an amp that has some reverb in it. That's about it. The rest is in the amp, guitar, and the fingers, my friends. And I've also talked to some fairly big names in the guitar industry. I'm going to say namely Rusty Cooley. He and I in our interview, we talked about your gear setup, your pedal board setup, and he told me too. It got less and less, more practical. I got to ask you about gear. Okay, so I had my time 20 years ago where I had the rack effects hooked up with the MIDI cables and I program everything. And this is me, and I'm not saying, keeping in mind, I've been in clubs, I've played to drunk people, I've had drunk people spill beer on stuff, step on the adapter plugins. I'm not a big gear guy anymore. I have an Eventide H9. I bought a year ago. I still haven't learned how to. I've unboxed it. That's progress. So I haven't learned how to use it. I'm like
Yeah.
a good amp, a good guitar, and a few pedals in my fingers. That's kind of where
Yeah.
I'm at now. What I know you've kind of experimented with a lot of different stuff. Like,
Yeah.
what's your overall feeling if someone came to you about that?
Well, my rig has evolved and and devolved and etc. I mean, when I was in Outworld, I used to play with 6 412s, and I ran
Holy jeez.
yeah, I ran 6 412s even at rehearsal. You know, it was 6 412s, and I ran a Rocktron Prophecy preamp initially into a VHT 292 power amp that went into 4 cabs, and then I had a Radial Engineering switchbone at the end of my pedal board that it went out. The other output went into a Bogner Ubershaw into two 412s, and then I can blended the two together. And I had a Bradshaw switching system, and I had that for a very short time because I got the Bradshaw system, and a friend of mine had to wire it up for me. And this thing was so complex that I looked at the back of it and went about after a week, and I went, if I get out on the road and something goes down, I'm not going to know what to do. So I took it all apart, and
Bingo. Yes.
what I did was then I took all my presets because I never could figure out how to do MIDI switching. So I took all my presets and just copied them through 1 through 15. So I had 1 2 3 4. I didn't have to program them as a MIDI change. So like
Okay.
if it hit 1, it didn't go to 70, and if you hit 2, it didn't go to 20. I just put all those patches right in a line. I just
Yeah.
copied them over. So I didn't. So my pedal board, my MIDI pedal board, would be right there, and I had one of those big ones that Rocktron made. It had like so I could have up to 15 per bank. So I didn't have
Yeah.
to bank up or down. I never wanted to do any banking during a set either.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So I put them all, made it real simple. Yeah, and I had my pedal board. At the time when I had the big rig, consisted of like a Morley switchless wah. OD8, 08, Maxon, which is still pretty much a mainstay. Maybe a flanger. My Prophecy had all the effects in it. My Ubershaw always went dry, and my Prophecy had all the effects built into it. So I didn't have to have a bunch of pedals.
Yeah.
And then when I went from Outworld to Day of Reckoning, I tried to downsize. So I went to two 412s and two 212s and two heads. I got rid of the preamps and stuff like that. I tried using Axe effects and all that stuff, and I just couldn't get it to not sound digital.
Yeah.
And so I went to two heads, and these heads kind of switched out anywhere from an Ubershaw and a 6505 Plus to a Splon Nitro. What else was I using at the time? I said a 6505 Plus Ubershaw. There was different heads that would, kind of make the rotation, and each head would get a 412 and a 212. And I thought, okay, well, I'm going to get a pedal board and just make it real simple. Well, going to a pedal board after having rack stuff makes it more complex in a way, because now I had all of these, I had all these adapters that I had to hook up, and I had all these cables. Some of the pedals went to the effects loop, some pedals went to the front of the amp. It's like, oh my God, this is such a headache. It
Yeah.
was worse than having the big rack. So I found a solution to the problem. There's a company called Pedal Snake, and Pedal Snake is a great company. They will make all your problems go away. I have a pedal board now, right? And I on my pedal board now. My pedal board's pretty. It's about like this big. It's got like a tuner on the front, and it goes into a wah. Then I got my Maxon 808. I've got a boost pedal, got a delay pedal, flanger, chorus, maybe something else. I don't know. And then it all goes into the to the switchbone at the end, made by Radial Engineering, and one signal goes into one head and one signal goes into the other head. I don't ever A/B them. It's both heads are on at all times.
Yeah.
It's the sound combined of the differences that make my overall sound. But coming out of my pedal board, right, is one cable.
There you go.
And I don't have my guitar plugging into my pedal board, and then two cables running out to two different heads, and then two more cables running to the effects loop of one head, and two more cables running to the effects loop of the other head, and then all my adapters, and then another cable running out. I mean, it took me like an hour to set up at soundcheck before I had the Pedal Snake. With the Pedal Snake, it's roll everything in, set it up, plug in a couple cables, and you're done.
And then you have time to relax and just chill
Oh
out.
yeah, man.
Do some
Yeah,
stuff.
I mean, the guys loved it when I got that Pedal Snake thing, man.
Yeah.
When you have these complicated rigs and you're setting up at an event, you have to lift your cabinets in, your heads in, you got to wire everything, then you got to plug all the pedals or all your rack effects in. You just want something really simple, man. You don't want to be tinkering around for hours. You want to be able to get in, set it up, and relax. chill out for a while before you have to start playing. So my question for you guys is, are you a gearhead, or are you in the woodshed, or are you a shredhead? So woodshed means, woodshedding is a term we use in guitar where it means you're really practicing hard, studying, working on your technique, learning new stuff, trying to improve on the guitar. I like to think of myself, instead of a gearhead, I'm more of a woodshed or a shredhead. I like to work and practice and play, you know, it's more of my thing. But, you know, these are only my observations. I know some guys that are gearheads that are amazing guitar players, mind-blowing guitar players. But a lot of the guys that really worry too much about the gear and all that stuff, and they're really into that and the tinkering, a lot of the ones that I've met in my journey in life, they're not really that good at guitar players. It's like, dude, you know, get a basic gear setup with a decent sound and focus more on your playing. What I'm saying, guys, I had a long talk with a student yesterday, and I realized, I said, you know, I'm really not big on doing gear reviews. I know a lot about them. Is that something you guys want to see me incorporate here on the channel? If enough people do, I'll do it. But I like the KISS, not the band, but I like the KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. And you'll find as you play live, the more and more simple you keep things, the easier your life's going to be, and the less stress you're going to have when you're playing live. Because a lot of times people that are always out to buy the newest amp or the newest effects unit, you're just chasing your tail. Do you think someone at the back of the room can really tell the difference between this pedal and that effect unit, the delays in it? Really? Anyway, guys, I just wanted to ask you guys, I appreciate the feedback. Comment below. Are you a gearhead? Are you a shredhead? Are you in the woodshed? Do you want to see me do more gear-oriented videos on this YouTube channel? I will be upping the guitar-related content this year, getting back to my roots. I still will be keeping the reaction videos that a lot of you really love. Let me know, and remember, check out my Patreon if you want to support the channel, or if you want to, you can just make a donation. It's greatly appreciated. It really helps with all the work that goes into running a YouTube channel. Remember, guys, practice hard, but practice smart. And we'll see you soon.